Hey y'all, welcome to Kamira's Kitchen. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a pecan pie that is full of flavor but has no corn syrup. We are going to be using a much more flavorful maple and honey, and I'm also going to add in a little bit of bourbon for that extra special touch. You definitely want to have this pie for the holidays. We're going to start by making a crust, but you could also use a pre-made one from the store. I am going to weigh my flour, my sugar, and my salt, and then I'm going to mix it together. I have 2 sticks of butter that have been in the freezer. I'm going to chop them until they are some nice cubes. That's going to help them disperse more evenly in the flour, and I'm going to use a food processor to blend together my flour and my butter. However, you could also just do this with forks or a pastry cutter. Y'all, sometimes I even just go in there with my hand, okay, and do it. Once this is blended together, you're going to drizzle in a 1/2 cup of ice cold water. Now you're going to see that this is going to be real crumbly. Okay, some of y'all going to get scared and try to add more water. Don't do it. Okay, don't do it. You also don't need any flour on your work surface. What you got to do is gather it on together. Okay, bring everybody together to the table. And then you're going to just start pressing it. Now, initially, you may not feel like it's going to work, but baby, I promise you it will. Okay, just keep kneading it and pressing it, and you're going to see that all these crumbs are going to press together to make a very buttery and delicious pie crust. Now, I am then going to flatten it out into a disc, and then I'm going to wrap it in plastic wrap, and I'm going to put this in the refrigerator for at least 1 hour. I just love homemade pie crust. It just tastes so delicious. Now, we all know that pecan pie is basically sugar and nut pie. Okay, it's just full of sugar, honey, and we are going to try to up that flavor by browning the butter for about 5 minutes. Instead of corn syrup, I am putting in 3/4 of a cup of maple syrup. I'm going to mix that together for about 3 minutes on medium-low heat. Then I'm going to cut off the eye and add in 1/4 of a cup of honey. You need to let this completely cool. It's going to take about 10 to 15 minutes. Then I am going to whisk together 3 eggs. That's going to really bind everything. And then into that, I'm going to put 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, a cup of brown sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla, and 2 tablespoons of bourbon. Now, the bourbon is technically optional, but the bourbon really adds a depth to the pecan pie, and I promise you that it is going to add a warm, rich flavor to your pie, and people will absolutely go crazy for it. Now, my syrup is cooled, and I'm mixing it into my egg mixture. You definitely want to make sure that syrup is cool, because you do not want no scrambled eggs, okay? That's going to be bad, all right? Now, this crust is really firm, okay? I just took it out the fridge. I put down a little flour, and I'm going to roll it out. Baby, this how you going to get your arm workout for the holidays, okay? Because I'm telling you right now, it took me a minute to get this dough to roll out, all right? Because that butter just gets so solid. But it was the most buttery, delicious crust. Now, I rolled it out until it was about a 1/4 of inch thickness. I like to put down my pie plate and make sure that there is about 1.5 inch clearance. That's how you know your crust is definitely going to fit into your pie plate. I'm going to fold the crust in half and then fold it over again. That is an easy way to pick up your crust so that you can put it inside of your pie shell. Are you team homemade crust or store-bought crust for your pies? I really thought that, I didn't care either way. But honestly, once I started making homemade pie crust, y'all, I'm low-key bougie. I'm like, oh my goodness, the flavor is so much better. Oh my. So let me know in the comments. Now, I am going to cut off the overhang. I have a very thick sort of rim on my pie dish, and so I'm just going to use that to help me do the pinch a little crust with my fingers. Now, I forgot to Parbake my crust. I don't know how I did that. You should Parbake your crust at 350 for 10 minutes. By the time I remembered, I had already poured in the goo, and by that time it was just too late. So I am going to put in 2.5 cups of pecans. Y'all, it's just going to be nuts all up in this. Okay, this ain't no 1.5 cup pecan deal. We need nuts in every bite. I like to flip them over so that they are going to, you can see the top on the top of your pie. I just feel like that looks so pretty. and then I'm going to pour in the syrup mixture. The pecans is going to rise to the top. I like to take my spoon and make sure all the pecans are covered before I put this in the oven. I'm going to bake this at 350 for 40 to 50 minutes or until the pie is set. You don't want to overbake or your goo is going to have a really weird texture. This pie needs to completely cool, at minimum 2 hours before you even think about cutting it. If it gets too dark during the cooking process, the crust does, you can just put foil around it and let it continue cooking. Now, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, this cut came out ugly. I don't know why. I think it's when sometimes when you use those pecan halves, it becomes hard to cut. And so it's a little struggle getting out the pie. But this pie was delicious. Let me know if you're going to try this recipe. I love you and Jesus loves you. And I'll see you next time in Kamira's Kitchen. Goodbye and God bless.